All right, everyone. Really glad to have you here. Today it is my great privilege, and I'm really excited to interview a dear friend, a mentor, somebody who's been an amazing teacher. I've had the privilege of working with him in Fortune 500, but he was working in Fortune 500 decades before I was. Really genius guy. I'm really excited to in Alex Haddox today. I would call him a living legend. He's a modest guy, very humble. So I don't know if he would necessarily accept that, but we're really glad to have you on, Alex.
Thank you for the compliments, but yeah, not.
You are.
Uh,
I should tell you some of the stories. I heard about you before I even met you at Amgen, funny enough. But
really?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
But well, Alex, again, I know that you run Operation Security Training Center, Palladium Education. You're the founder of both. So you've been in the information security and in the physical security space, along with education for some time. And over the years of knowing you, I know you're somebody who's been able to strategically use content to sell your content. And so I just want to really get some insights from you. But please share a little bit about yourself, your background professionally, and what got you into this space in the first place.
Well, like most things, you kind of fall into it. It's rare that you actually select something to go into and it works. So uh, I'm a nerd, have been for ages, and from the early days, self-taught computers. And in the 90s, I got a job working technical support for Symantec, the Norton Utilities and Norton Desktop for Windows, which doesn't even exist anymore. And from there, I moved from help desk to corporate support desk to development, and then as a product manager. And I was in charge of and co-founder of the Symantec Antivirus Research Center. So very early on, we're talking 95, um, when I got started in what we would now call computer security. Back then, it really didn't have that moniker. And then from there, I moved on. I stopped for a while, finished my college degrees. I got a job with Amgen, and in Amgen, I was a business analyst and technical writer. That's where I met Adrian. And then from there, went off to education and training, got my master's in education and training. And meanwhile, all while this was happening, I was running a side hustle for private security, and I fell into that. It wasn't like I selected private security. Um, I grew up in a very secure household because my father's work, he was chief psychiatrist a um, for the federal prison system. So we always had high security around the house. I grew up around cops and military and judges and attorneys were the people that come over and watch football. And so it always I had amazing training. Physical security was always something that I was pounded into my head. So as I was expanding and doing side hustles and things, I was doing private security, no, I'm sorry, personal security, personal self-defense training and seminars. And then that led me over to NRA training. And part of what I was doing was also teaching physical containment for psychiatric patients, patients with traumatic brain injury. And we used to go, my mentor and we'd fly to Hawaii and teach at rehabilitation clinics. We teach the clinical staff on how to identify people potentially having a bad reaction to their meds, acting out, and how to contain them without hurting them. Because, if grandma starts going off, being a little nutty and starts whacking people with her cane, you don't want to hip throw grandma into a wall, right? So you want to safely and carefully contain grandma so she won't hurt herself or other people or you. And that's one of the things we were teaching. And we also taught the security department. We'd always do a lecture for them on Saturday mornings, as part of it. And so from there, I was like, hey, if I'm teaching security guards, maybe I should get my guard card, just to see what their actual days like and trainings like and things like this. And so I met my current business partner who had been doing private security training for 15 years at the time. And from there, he was like, "Well, I'd love to take my program online." And I was like, "Well, guess what I do for a living?" And so I, took his materials and we worked together and I developed a 40-hour training program for private security. So it's kind of, a winding road, starting in with early days of IT security with computer viruses, and then finally finishing in physical security, which is where I kind of started when I was a kid. So, convoluted path.
Mm.
It's hard to, yeah,
Yeah, it sounds like you've come full circle.
yeah, pretty
But I
much.
love it and a very interesting story, as well too. The fact that you were exposed to people in that space professionally from your childhood means it sounds to me like it was just a natural inclination, almost automatic for you to just kind of go into that space.
Retrospectively, yes, but when you're
Uh-huh.
in the middle of it, you have no
Yeah.
idea. You know where you've been, but you have no idea where you're going.
Mm. Well,
So
it's
it's
an amazing journey, nevertheless, Alex. Talking about content that sells, I think it's part of the reason we're all here. It's the line of question I'm asking you about. Most people, when they think about content that sells, they're thinking about like promotional items. They're thinking about maybe the cheesy, like the thing that you remember, like the little blow thing that you blow at a party and it makes that little high pitched sound. Um,
oh yeah,
Kazoo? I can't remember what it
kazoo.
is, right?
Yes, kazoo.
Kazoo. Yeah, like I think sometimes people think about selling and it's like that cheesy kind of like low quality um product or service. But the reality of it is that selling is a science, it's an art, right? It's not just something that somebody can just pick up and do one day and be successful at it. So can you share what it means to you to create something that sells and then in particular content that sells?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And the key is to find your niche. Um, and I like to start with failures because I think you learn far more with failure than you do with actually succeeding. If you succeed, you don't know what you're doing, right? Because you're always winning and
True.
you don't learn, right?
Mm.
I found I'm a lifetime martial artist on is the physical training and everything else. And I've got a black belt in American Kenpo and I've got a brown stripe in Hapkido. So I started doing a podcast back in 2007, early days of podcasting. I had a very successful show. I did
Mm.
it every week. It came out on Sunday nights and it was ready for people on Monday mornings. I had millions of downloads. And again, this is early days. It was downloaded in 180 countries and I had 250 something episodes. I did it for about 7 years. I hardly made anything on it because I had a great product, but no way to monetize it.
Mm.
And that was the failure. I was top 10 almost every week in the education podcasts. And it was just about personal defense, how to protect your family, how to protect your home, how to, hotel security, all these different types of things that I had grown up with because of my background. And I was just sharing them on a show every week. And even though I had this great distribution model and this audience, I had nothing to sell. I was trying to sell my seminars. I was doing self-defense seminars, but I was in Woodland Hills, California. And what I didn't realize was that podcasting is worldwide. So I had thousands of people who would have loved to have taken my class if they were local, but it failed. I wrote a book and made a couple grand off the book, but that's it. But for, 1 day a week that I would take to write, script, build, and then post every single week, I like to joke that I would have made more money, standing on the street corner at a freeway off ramp begging for money. It would have been more profitable.
Oh
So,
gosh, Alex.
so
Wow.
you can have it,
Mhm.
right? But unless you have something to attach to it, it's not going to do you any good.
Mm,
And that's the big lesson. Eventually, I stopped it. People were very upset with me, but again, I had other things to do, and the private security training was starting to kick off by the time I ended the show. That I could sell. That I could make money off of, and I could see a direct correlation between the amount of effort I put into the lesson versus how many people are buying it. And that is part of the key is, yeah, content is critical. If you don't have good content, you're not going to go anywhere. So the challenge is to find the content that you are an expert in, that you have, and the big thing we talked about, in many of our discussions privately, credibility. You have to have credibility. You have to have experience and demonstratable experience so that people will listen to you. Anybody can stand in front of a screen and put on makeup, right? Why should they listen to you? Why should they listen to you over the other 2,000 people that are doing the same thing? And one of those things for me, one of the best things I ever did was get my master's in education because that piece of paper and those three little letters, M.Ed. at the end of my name, immediate credibility. I have a piece of paper that says I'm an expert in this. Whether or not it's true, it doesn't matter. It's part of the, I hate to say it, but maybe a show, right? It's part of the reasons why they come to you. You have an MBA. You should put that MBA on everything. I've got it in my signature files. I've got it. I think it's even here.
oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I see it
yeah,
right
yeah.
down
And my
there.
name right there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
Hmm.
on the back,
Yeah.
right? I've got it
Ah,
there too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
the credential helps build credibility, and that's really
Mhm.
important. And that will set you aside in terms of your content, why people should listen to you. I'm going to stop so you can talk, otherwise I'll go on for
Perfect.
hours.
No, it sounds great. No, thanks, Alex. I mean, that's a great point. Yeah. So there's a lot of things you said, credibility, and that's a very powerful thing. And education, understanding what it is that you're doing, showing competency, not just within yourself, but then being able to come and communicate and demonstrate that competency to your customers, to your audience. Makes
Exactly.
total sense. So moving on to the audience then, your buyers, your customers, right? How do you think about them? What should you be thinking about them? What are the questions that come into your mind when you already know what space you're in, but you're crafting a solution for them that you can sell? Work me through that process, or what are some of the questions you think about?
It comes down to, and we use this term a lot in corporate, needs analysis, right? What do
Mm,
they need? What are they willing to part with their money in order to get?
mm,
What we do with our uh, online training for private security is we focus on the fundamental training that gets them a license. And then in turn, that license gets them a job, and that job gets them money. So they spend money on our course in order to get their credential, in order to get a job. And that's essentially what I'm doing with the online guard training. It's a vocational school that gets people jobs. And that's what they want. That's all they want. We have corporate customers who have to maintain compliance because every state, I mean, we're in 8 states. Every state has, if you get a license, you have to have continuing education units, continuing education annual refresher courses. Sometimes it's every 2 years, 4 years, every year. And the employer is hooked on that, right? They're on the hook for that, excuse me. They're on the hook for that because when the state comes and audits them, they have to show, are your employees up to speed on their training? And that's when they open up the records and there you go. Yes, all our employees are up to records, up to standards. I just landed a contract this week with a university. They were audited, and a small portion of their guards, they couldn't provide proof that they had some of the required training. And they hired us to come in and take care of that training for them. So they handle all the other stuff, but the retrospective training that they should have had and should have had proof of, couldn't find it for some reason. So they hired us to come in and take care of it. So the compliance is a big issue when it comes to training. Everyone has to do it. And that's what I did for Amgen for, I don't know, 10, 12 years was, biotech compliance training, making certain that everyone's up to the current FDA, EMEA, types of training that is required to make certain that when they work in the industry, they know what they're doing. And so I did documentation for that. I did training for that. I did all sorts of things. So it's important that and it's something that sells because it's needed. It's required at a federal, state, sometimes international level. So again, you have to identify that need and then hit that need in order to sell the product. Because I don't use makeup. I barely cut my beard, right? So I have absolutely no interest in watching people, do makeup. Not my need. My wife, sure, maybe. Um, she loves travel, so she watches all these travel videos. And those people, again, it satisfies the need. And then what's good about them is what you need to do is you need to give them something for their time. So you need to provide information, right? Because we're talking about content, and content is education at its core, no matter what it is, right? Edutainment, licensing information, it's still education at its core. So you're educating somebody, and then you tack on a little snippet, right? A little something. Hey, if you like this content, it's just not like and subscribe. It's, I have a product to sell you, right? I provide tour services. I provide books on these various places. I wrote a book on how to select hotels, how to, do these various things, how to book cruises. So you have to have something that is that you can sell along with it. And that was the mistake I made with my first one is I had a great product, but nothing to sell it with, to sell on top of it. So you have to identify the need, give them something for free, and then give them the option to buy. Um, I'm going to go on a little bit more about this. Here's an example of something that I did. So I have a very old truck, 20 years old, and the headlamps were completely obscured. They're all blurry and the light bulbs were going out and it was just bad. So I figured I'm not going to take it to the dealership and spend $700. I could probably do it myself. And if I screw it up, then I can take it to the dealership. So I went and searched online for the parts, found a company that had high quality parts. And in addition to the parts, they also had videos on how to install it. Their part, their installation, their everything. So, and the library was insanely huge. It wasn't just Toyota trucks. It was every make and model going back 30 years. They had a huge library of videos. And I wound up buying my parts from them. I used their videos to install it, and it worked. And I was very happy. And when I needed more parts, I bought other parts from the same company because they provided this really great service for free, but they had a product to sell along with it.
Awesome. 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 So what I'm hearing over and over in this theme is educational value and then content in different formats. Um, for people who are in different industries, you yourself have been in the content creation and education space for some time now. So it's probably first nature for you to just do it, with your eyes closed, so to speak. For the
I wish it
professional
was
or
that
the
easy.
right, maybe not literally, right? But for the business owner, the new business owner, the growing business owner, that may have constraints in terms of resources to create content or professionally, let's say, for example, what are strategies or tools they can use to be able to promote their business, whether maybe they can't write a book, but what are some of the other things or strategies that you would suggest that they could employ to get their brand, their name, their reputation, and maybe some of their content out there?
The internet is king. Absolutely. And if you don't have a website that's well presented on Google, they are not going to find you. The myth of if you build it, they will come, that is complete and utter BS. You have to go where they are, right? So if your clients are younger, right, you're targeting a specific audience, you want to go to places like TikTok and Instagram, right? It used to be Facebook back in the old days. It used to be Twitter, now X. It used to be different places, and the platform moves and the formats change. The reels are really popular because they're short 30-second snippets. So if you can get your free content, right, your what you're going to hook them with, the what you're providing them, and then say, boom, and buy this, or even just put up a banner or something, that we'll get there. But you have to go where they are, and they always start with the internet, right? In one form or another, and search engines, whether it's the TikTok search engine, the Instagram engine, or it's the Google engine, those are where you have to be. That's hard. That is really, really hard. And it's getting harder every day. So there are podcasts and there are sites. The sites, I have not been able to really glean very much from sites that are supposed to help you find stuff and how to manipulate and score high on the search engines. But there are many podcasts out there that are, and they help a lot. But you're going to have to get into coding, and that's the challenge. Um, Ader and I are nerds, so it's easier for us because we have a background in it. Um, and what's also interesting is the new thing that's coming out, and a lot of people haven't glommed onto this yet, is that the AI tools are replacing the search engines. And this is new. This been coming out in the past year and a half. And it's people are going to the search engine or the chat bots or the AI tools, ChatGPT, Genesis, Codex, or whatever your current flavor is. And they're saying, what is the best X or where can I find this? Right? They're putting it into the AI engines rather than directly into Google because they feel it's a more trustworthy source. So you have to build your website with what they call, it used to be called SEO, search engine optimization. Now you also have to include a GEO or generative engine optimization. So GEO, they're very different. They're very, very different. And getting in there early is key. And because once you're at the top, you've got that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because the search engines and everybody likes the best sites. And if you're on the top 10, then you're on the top 10, and then that makes more people come to your site and it just kind of snowballs until you're stuck there. And then it's very hard to unseat you.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting, Alex. It sounds to me it is like you're saying, a complicated process. It's not something that you're going to just be able to do overnight, right?
Right.
But you also mentioned free content, right? Maybe before putting something out there that's actually going to be sold.
Yes.
Um, you mentioned Reels. What other tools, tips? So you said the website as well too. So just basically an entrepreneur putting in content about what they're doing currently, maybe what type of work they're doing, how they're solving whatever problems for their customers. Would you say, is there anything else that they could do in that space, or would they need to come to somebody like yourself or a content creation specialist to actually, put something together? How would that work?
Yeah, you'd need to go to a content creation specialist. Um, The problem is there are a lot of shysters out there, right? They are going to rob you blind and give you crap. And
Yeah.
unless you know the difference, you're going to get taken. And again, it's not easy. I mean, everybody said, "Oh, you run your own business. That must be fantastic. Must have all these days off." I'm like, no, no, that's not the way it works. I work seven
Nope.
days a week. Running your own business is hard. even when you're
Hmm.
successful. So
Hmm.
the it's a myth that it's again, build it and they will come. No, 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 no. You have to have something substantial. You have to have something that fills a need. You have to be able to collect their money. And I have an undergrad in business as well. Uh, but most of my business experience comes from my years at Symantec as a product manager. And one of the key things that you have to do is make it as easy as possible for the people to give you their money, right? It's called frictionless transactions. That's the marketing term, right? So frictionless transactions make it easy to take their money. If you make it difficult, if they can't figure out how to do it, they're going to move on. Like with my clients, my students, right, which are nationwide, they are very price sensitive, right? We have learned that over the years. They will click on somebody else for a nickel cheaper because it only takes a click, right? And they don't care where they get their training from. They just want their certificate so they can get their job. That is the need. That itch you're scratching is they want a job. So you have to make it easy for them to part with their money. You can't charge too much, but you need to charge enough that you don't go out of business. So it's a very careful balance that you have to do. And I'm not certain where I was going with this. So frictionless transactions, you have to make it easy and it can't be too much. This is why the games that everyone plays on their phones, they have those microtransactions, right? Because it's only 99 cents. Oh, it's only a buck 99. Oh, it's only 2.99. It's easy. And then all of a sudden, you've bought seven of these things and you've spent 20 bucks. And I've done that. I was like, holy moly, I got to stop. I am for a buck a time, I am spending way too much money. So again, that's a frictionless transaction. And that's a beautiful thing to have.
Totally makes sense. Frictionless makes it sound so smooth.
The
Pun
smoother it
intended.
is, the easier it
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, I totally follow what you're saying there, Alex. So we're putting content out there, but now let's talk about the quality of the content and the impact that it's having on its viewers and your prospective clients or customers. How do you create the content in such a way that it's trustworthy, that people value it, want to take it home, want to apply it, want to keep on coming back for more, whether it's more to now paid or more free to something else that's paid down the road.
That is key. Content is king, right? We all know that. We've heard that our
Mhm.
entire lives. Content is
Mhm.
king,
Mhm.
but it has to be quality content
Mhm.
because you have to build that credibility. It goes back to credibility, right? If you may have there was a podcast I used to listen to that was competing with me in the personal protection space. They had good material, but all they did was curse through the entire thing. And I was like, if you can get around them swearing like drunken Marines, it was okay, but I couldn't get past it. And you couldn't, it was not something you'd share with your children. Whereas what the tact I took, I never swore. I never identified any race in the case studies I used. I never specified what race somebody was, uh, be it the good guy or the bad guy. And I was very neutral and very family friendly. And I got a lot of good feedback. Hey, this is something I can share with my family. This is something I can share with my son and my daughter, right? And I had law enforcement that would say, "Hey, I'm teaching this self-defense class. Can I use your podcast as part of my lesson?" So it was very well received, and I had good quality audio. And the quality is absolutely imperative because that goes to not just what you're saying, but how you're saying it. And it increases more credibility, more viewers, higher quality, more viewers. You have to find that balance because high quality takes more time. And our time as people and people with families is limited. So you have to provide high quality, but then get to the point where it's good enough, right? There is no perfect. And my wife likes to say perfect is the um, greatest inhibitants to uh, perfection. No. I blew that.
I think I know what you're saying. Something along the lines of like what perfection is the antithesis to progress or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Something like that.
Something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I
yeah,
totally butchered it. But anyway,
yeah.
so um, being perfect, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be
Mm,
good, right?
mm.
And then the more good you put out, the more viewers and the more people you're going to attract. I have recently, I use AI tools every day. Every day. I've got four primary tools that I use. And one of them is 11 Labs. I'm going to promote them here. They do voice cloning because I have done my own audio, since the early 2000s, right? I've got a professional recording. I've got, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in recording equipment, right? Microphones, recorders, all sorts of stuff, right? So I had a huge library of high quality audio. 11 Labs, what they would do is they said, okay, give us 3 hours of high quality audio and they will make a voice clone. And this is what I use now. So I gave them the hours. They chunked on it for over 6.5 hours and came up with a voice clone of me. And it's indistinguishable from me.
Amazing.
The difference is that the inflections aren't always there, but it's good enough, right?
Hmm.
People are
Hmm.
used to having AIs because of the videos and YouTube and everything else. People use the built-in AI to do the voiceovers because people don't know how to record or don't like the sound of their own voice or they're too embarrassed or whatever the reason is. So it's good enough. And so I use that and it saves me unbelievable amounts of time. Is that I calculated it once, it was about a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every hour of finished audio, it would take me 10 hours to produce that. And then when I'm building a 40-hour training program, that is a lot of time. It's 400 hours. That's months worth of doing nothing but audio. And trust me, listen to your own voice, repeat stuff over and over and over. I mean, if you're a narcissist, it's great, but unless for the normal people, not so much.
Sure.
It's like, all right, I screwed that up and I have to re-record it, and then I got to re-record it, and then I have to edit it, and then so the having it read the scripts, speak it perfectly based on the script in my voice, not perfect, good enough.
Got it. Got it. Got it, Alex. Well, you are a seasoned professional in the space of content creation and education. In terms of like making the content easy, clear to understand, and palatable, I know we talked about how to make it trustworthy, incredible, but now how do we make it digestible and easy? Like you said, you want to be able to engage the people and keep them coming back. But how would you make it such that it's clear and easy to understand?
It has to do with speaking their language, literally. Um, I've got advanced degrees. I have more college units than I can count. The key is not to speak above the audience, right? I could use 20 character words and spout stuff that'll send everybody looking for a dictionary and make it sound great, right? To me. But what that does is it alienates the people listening. It makes them feel stupid. I may feel like a really smartest person in the room, but you don't have to shove that into people's faces. And this is, I'm going to use some politics here. I apologize in advance. Obama, highly educated, brilliant man, spoke too high for the average person. He was a Harvard educated law, lawyer. He just came off as unreachable. People didn't understand him. They couldn't they couldn't relate to him. And who were the people that were relatable? George W. Bush, who was, a guy you'd like to have a beer with, or worse yet, Donald Trump. right? He speaks to the common man. He swears up and down and, speaks plainly, right? A little bit corrosive at times, but he speaks plainly. And that resonated with the audience, right? They understood him. They didn't have to translate anything. So part of the education, huge component of it, huge component of providing any content is making it consumable. People have to be able to understand it. And as a teacher, your job is to take stuff out of your head and put it in their head. So you have to speak the language that they will understand, right? When I'm writing for security guards who are guys that made it out of high school, I use very different language than I was teaching PhDs at Amgen, right? Totally different audience, totally different skill set, totally different presentation style. So you have to, you know, uh, in education and training, they talk about kids learn differently than adults, and that's absolutely true too, right? That's really pretty obvious, right? You can't use big biology words to a 4-year-old. They're never going to get it, right? So customizing what you say, how you say it, to make it as easily consumable as possible is powerful. It's very, very powerful. And that's what makes it uh, worthwhile. And that gives it power, right? Because if they understand it, they'll come back. You don't make them feel stupid. They'll come back, right? Um, yeah, I'm kind of going to end it there. I could go on a
That's-
longer rant, but
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. No, thank you. It's very helpful to understand just the process and the way you think about it in terms of communication. At the end of the day, you're talking to another human being, and that human being needs to be able to take it, make it memorable, make it actionable.
yeah.
So
And again, it's so important not to alienate your audience by speaking
mhm,
above their heads.
got
You
it.
know, and it's something that I've had to my son was having trouble making friends, and I was like, you're going to be the smartest
Hmm.
kid in the room. Don't make everybody else feel stupid, right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
not how you make
Hmm.
friends. I'm not
Hmm.
saying act stupid, but what I'm saying is change your language, change your presentations, and
Hmm.
huge difference. Lots of friends now,
Awesome. Awesome.
and it's
Awesome.
he's not being stupid, but he's also not, you know, bashing in
Hmm.
people's, put in their faces that
Hmm.
I'm smarter than you. I'm smarter than you.
We don't have to be Homer Simpson, is what you're
Yeah.
saying. No.
No, no, we have to be more
No.
like Lisa.
Lisa. Oh, yeah. Lisa. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe not Bart, right? I think he got into too
No,
much
not Bart.
trouble. I'm sure there's a lot of people who may know that reference and quite a few younger people who may or may not, depending on whether or not they watch The Simpsons. So next question for you. How can businesses create persuasive content without sounding too aggressive or overly sales focused? Going back to that whole kazoo thing.
Yeah, there's hard sell and soft sell.
Mm,
I'm a fan of soft sell,
mm,
right? When I was at Symantec, we used soft sell. I mean, when I would go on speaking tours, I was interviewed over 10 times a week for newspaper, radio, magazines. A couple times a year, I'd go on press tours where I'd, fly to New York and I'd be in the CNN building and I would, starting at 6 in the morning, be sitting in a chair like this, and every 10 minutes, another TV station would click in and ask the same 10 questions. But what we did was we weren't pushing the product specifically.
mm,
I was educating, right?
mm.
Here are the current threats on computer viruses. Here is, what you need to do to protect yourself. And by the way, I also work for Norton and we sell Norton antivirus. It's a
Got it.
soft sell. It's a soft
Hmm.
sell. And
Hmm.
it works. And it's a long-term power strategy,
Mm.
right? And the Peter Drucker is the king of power, right? So whenever you go to business school, they talk about Peter Drucker. He's God.
The
And
essential Drucker.
yeah. And he talks about sources of power. That's one of his big things. And
Hmm.
referent power is the most powerful. The hard push, coercive power as I'm your boss. If you don't do this, I'm going to fire you. That is the weakest form of power. And a soft sell is more like the referent power because you build a reputation, you build a rapport with the people, and they trust you. And then when they say, I do this or I use this, then it has far more impact. But it's again, long game, not a short-term game.
Got it. Well, as far as there being so many different contact formats, again, we talked about articles, videos, carousels, newsletters, webinars, short posts, long form. How should someone decide what format to use?
Don't. It's really easy. Don't choose a format. Do
Okay.
everything,
Okay.
right? Do everything.
Shotgun,
Shot,
spray.
absolutely. But
Okay.
again, high quality, right?
Hmm.
One of my philosophy is write once, use many. Write once, use many. So when I build a training, right, I will write it as if I'm writing a training manual. I then take that training manual, and once that's done, that's now my book. I'll sell the book. Then I turn it into e-learning, right? So the manual now becomes a script for the audio portions of the training program and PowerPoints that go along with that, slides, not actually PowerPoints, but it's interactive slides. I use a special tool to do it, blah, blah, blah. So so now I wrote it once. I've now converted it into two different formats. So now I have the e-learning that I can sell online, and I have a PowerPoint deck with a manual, which I can sell as a package for other people to teach their own classes. And then, since the e-learning is done and it's interactive with a few modifications, I can kick out a DVD and I can sell the training DVD. So if people want to run this lecture in their class and not actually have to sit there and do the PowerPoints or anything else, and they just want to throw the DVD and go have a lunch break or a cup of coffee, they could do that too. So I've written once. I have e-learning format, so that's two formats. Presentations, three, and four is the DVD. Write once, use many.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes
So,
sense,
and
Alex.
and when
Uh-huh.
you the key is when you build the initial version of it, plan ahead to use it in the other formats. Make it easy for yourself to convert it into the other formats because I have early on, I was like, oh yeah, I got this stuff. And I was like, oh, I could have written that differently to make it easier to convert into these other formats. So plan ahead with what you want to do. Now, with when it comes to online content, which is king, so we have to do that. So if you build a video that for a particular thing, like a wide form 1080p video for YouTube, when you design that video, make it easy that you can change the format to vertical, right? So that you can then put it on um, Instagram and TikTok, right? And maybe cut it down to make it 30 seconds, right? Instead of a full 20-minute. Or say, hey, this is just a little 30-second blurb. You can go here for the full 30-minute version, right? And cross-reference, which is also good. So plan ahead, go everywhere. You have to go to them. Again, if you build it, they will come is crap. It doesn't exist, right? So you have to go to them and get in front of them to do your product.
Awesome, Alex. Great insights. Great insights. One of the things I remember years ago in my own business, creating content was a struggle for me. Sometimes as a small business owner, we get, booked up with maybe client work or billing and invoicing. There's this whole mixture of responsibilities in operating your own business. And so I think, yeah, I'm sure we've all seen, the person that has social media on their Instagram, their Facebook or whatever, and then you see a stream of posts and then like 1, 2, 3, 4 years of no content. Like, what's your suggestion as far as like creating consistency? What ideas or approaches or recommendations do you have for that small business owner that wants to grow and produce consistent content but finds it challenging?
Yeah, that is the issue. Again, I learned from my successful podcast is, I started out once a month and then I went to every other week and I saw improvement. And then I went to weekly and saw the greatest improvement of them all when it was a weekly show. But again, the time commitment to do it was difficult. So what I did was I went and split it up. So I would have long format, short format, long format, short format. And so that the time wasn't as onerous on me. You have to set the time aside to do it. You just have to, I mean, if this is your marketing venue, you have to set time aside for it. I used to set aside Fridays. Friday was script writing and recording for the show. And it worked, you know. And at the end of the day, if I had extra time, I could do something else. But Fridays was my podcast development time. And that's the only way, you know, as a busy small business owner working 7 days a week, you've got to set that time aside on a regular basis and be consistent. If you're not consistent, you're going to lose people. So to be to be to summarize a little bit, quality doesn't have to be perfect, but good quality, consistent, right? You have to be out there on a regular schedule, whatever schedule works for you, but just a regular schedule so people know when to anticipate it, right? It's like Seinfeld was on at 7 o'clock on CBS on Thursday nights. They knew when to dial in, right?
Mhm.
Same thing still applies. People have schedules. They have you know routines. People have routines. So uh, quality, consistency, value, and be everywhere in whatever format. It's hard.
So,
It's
yeah,
hard. You know,
it's just,
there's
it's, mhm,
anyone who tells you it's easy is blowing
mhm,
smoke.
yeah.
It's not easy.
It's just to recognize it. You know, one of the things I've seen over the years is people are willing to put in the investment into the product itself, but don't think about the marketing aspect of it. But you look at the movie
Yeah.
houses, especially Hollywood back in the day, when Hollywood was really, you know, the thing before Netflix, et cetera, that's come out now, YouTube and whatnot. They would make a movie, maybe say take cost 5, 10 million to make the movie. They'd spend another 10, 20 million promoting the movie, you know. So marketing is such an essential part of business, but entrepreneurs, I think especially small business entrepreneurs, we kind of, at least I can speak from my own background, we get into it because of the one thing that we do really well that we like to do. So we focused on that. And then, you know, okay, I'm an engineer, I'm a nerd, I love my computers, I can do that. But now, how am I going to focus on marketing when I'm a super introverted person that likes to read, you know, be behind my book and not have to go out there and talk to a whole bunch of people? There's this whole shift that has to happen, I think. Um, but question for you, how does content affect the overall customer experience before someone even becomes a client? I think about Apple, I think about Nike and their commercials and whatnot. You know, when people come into the store, it's like they're ready to just grab it like hotcakes. You know, they're not necessarily there to sell the customer. They're more so there maybe to educate. But what about the actual content do you think is that makes it, you know, the thing that customers crave for?
Branding. We haven't talked about branding yet. It is about branding, right? So you have to brand everything, right? It's, slap your logo everywhere so that when they see it, they recognize it, right? You don't buy the latest iPhone because, I mean, you buy the latest iPhone because it's the latest iPhone, right? You already have iPhone's the best. I'm going to buy an iPhone or a car, whatever car you like, that's the best. I'm going to buy that, or something, a model within that brand. It's branding, and
Hmm.
you have to create your brand. That brand can be tied to a product line, or in the case of some of the media, you are the brand, right? So, like, I mean, going back to the makeup models because they seem to be everywhere, but their brand is their face, right? Their product is being able to put on the makeup and sell the makeup. That's the product, but the brand is them, right? So I when I was at Symantec, I was the brand. My boss told me I want when someone thinks computer viruses, I want them to think Alex Haddox. There should be no separation between the two. So I was the corporate spokesman. I went everywhere. I'm the one that did the lectures. I'm the one that did all the interviews. And people, it's hard. Public speaking is hard. They put me through tons and tons of training, and people were incredibly happy to relinquish that to me because they were like, crap, I don't want to do that. I'm going to stand in front of
Pressure's off.
400. Yeah, I don't want to stand in front of 400 people and give a lecture. That's scary. So they were happy to pass it on to me. And then I was able to leverage that into other things. But I became the brand. And the online training, I've actually tried to separate myself from that. I mean, yes, it's my voice for everything. I narrate everything, right? But they don't see my face. They see the logo. So they know Security Training Center has quality training, regardless if it's Wisconsin, Arizona, California, Hawaii. It doesn't matter. The brand is there. So they know when we get the brand on it, it's quality. So it's that's how you sell product again long term. And it takes time to build, right? Again, it's a soft sell. You just don't come out and say, I'm a premium brand, buy me. And we're like, well, who are you? And why do you know, you say you're a premium brand and you say you're high quality, but I'm not going to spend $500 to find out that it's terrible.
Right.
I mean, like
Thank you,
Honda,
Alex.
when
Yeah.
Honda came in,
Hmm.
in the 70s, they
Hmm.
were the cheap cars,
Hmm.
right? And over the past 40, 50 years, they've become a premium brand.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's
hmm
it's it's changed. Same thing with Hyundai. They were the really little cheap cars. Now they're
Sure.
again a
Hmm.
premium brand, but it took 50 years to get there, right? So again, it's there's a lot of long-term stuff that you can do as a product, and we haven't even talked about selling the
Hmm.
company, which is a very
Hmm.
popular thing to do here in Silicon Valley, is to build something, to get a brand, to do something, and then sell it to somebody else. That's hard, right? Especially for non-tech stuff. And the small companies, you'll sell it, but for small amounts of money. You're not going to make millions. You're
hmm
gonna sell it for a couple 100,000 at best.
So brands are super important. I got it. You
Yes.
gotta, yeah, you gotta have your story down. You gotta have your image and your reputation and your place in the market, so to speak.
Yeah.
So for someone joining who today who wants to improve their content immediately, what are three things they could do this week? Well, it's Thursday now, maybe next week, but what can they do right away?
Uh, do your research before good content takes time, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to take a lot of time. So start out small, right? High quality, short format, right? And then as you get your experience and as you get the ability to craft that content faster, right? Then expand and then create longer formats. But don't start taking on, I'm going to do an hour show on blah, right? No, start out 2 minutes, right?
Hmm.
High quality, 2 minutes. And then from there, start adding and see how it works, right? Because you're
Hmm.
not going to hit it out of the park on the first one. That doesn't happen. That's going to take, I mean, yeah, it happens. It's like being struck by lightning, right? But when it happens, it's great. But the average person, no, no. I mean, again, there were a lot of shows that I did that I spent hours working on these shows, hours and hours and hours, and I thought it was fantastic. And it got a mediocre response. And then other things I threw together, like in 20 minutes, I just had to woke up with an idea and I blah, 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 and I posted it. Huge results, huge people. I was like, what did I do? Why did this one fail that I put all this effort into? And why did this one succeed? I still don't know.
So
So,
interesting. So
yeah,
interesting. Well, Alex, thanks so much. It's, I guess, like, we said at the beginning, it's an art, it's a science. Sometimes you throw something up and it sticks. Sometimes you can put in the work, strategize, and, the one that you just threw up there does much better. Well, now it's time for us to look to the audience and see what the audience has. We have a question in. Angelica put it in there for us, and it says, Alex, how can creators or business owners give value for free without giving away so much that there is no clear reason for people to take the next paid step? In other words, how can a person, an entrepreneur, creator, create content but know that fine line between what to give for free and what to sell?
That's a tough one. It's a very good question. It's a very difficult question. And there is that fine line about how much, if you give the milk away, why would somebody buy the cow? Right. So
Mhm,
it's that's a very, very old saying.
mhm,
You have to give them enough, or what you do is you give them an entire freebie on one item, again, establishing your credibility, your experience, your quality, and you give a series of the less valuable ones away, and then you keep the valuable ones back and say, I've even got more stuff, but you're going to have to pay for this. And then again, hitting that price point of what it is would be this. So that would be one approach, um, one I've used in the past and been pretty successful with it.
So it sounds great, Alex. I remember watching a YouTube video some time back, and this young lady who was a photographer, uh, she was putting together her own guide, something that she had used for herself, but she needed to sell, and she needed to make some money. So she just put together her own documentation, all that she had. She put it together, created this like ebook, posted it online, and according to her, she makes hundreds of thousands of dollars just selling this one ebook over and over and over again because photographers everywhere wanted to be able to like, use her strategies to be able to like create these awesome shots and then also not only do that, but generate more business. But then I've also heard some people talk about like creating content, they give everything away, but their whole thing is that they have in-person live sessions or whatever, or one-on-one coaching that actually brings the transformation. So I guess they're saying you might be able to read or listen or digest this information, but it's not going to be able to be actionable, I guess. So, any, closing thoughts around that real quick?
Yeah, I didn't have, again, that goes back to my podcast where it was great
Hmm.
content consumed all over the world, but I only had, you know, 4 or 5 people show up a month to my seminars because they were the only ones that were local. So you think that you would go on these seminars and fill a banquet hall and have all that other stuff. Maybe, maybe in 10, 15 years. Start small. Start small. Start as a side hustle because you have to keep money coming in to put food on the table while you expand. Even with my security guard training, I started off as a side hustle, right? Something that, it was nice. It brought in supplemental income every month. And it was, you know, 12, 15 years before I went full time with it because it took that long to build up. And it was a challenge, again, because I'm one person and I had a full time job. I didn't have as much time to create the additional content. So you've got to find this balance. But you can't be wary of over investing in the initial idea. If you go all in right from the start, it's a huge risk. So try baby steps.
Got it. Thank you, Alex. Well, just going to hand the floor over to you just to really talk a little bit more about what you're doing now, Security Training Center. I really think you should be helping businesses create and publish their content. I'm going to sell it for you. We
Uh,
didn't bring you on here. You never said anything about it, but if you want to create content in your business for your staff, or if you want to create strategies for getting your content and your business out there, I think Alex is a great person to reach out to and get in contact with. Any other thoughts? Can you share a little bit about your business as we close?
uh, no, actually, I really don't have that much more to say. I think I've said portions of it, start small, do a side hustle, and grow it over time. And then there's going to be this cutoff point where you're going to need to go into it full time in order to grow it to where it really can go. But at the same time, you're not taking a huge risk, right? You're not going to risk getting kicked out on the street. And there are so much other things you could talk about, but also it's easier to take the risks when you're young. When you've got the gray beard, you don't want to take as many risks, right? Because you
Yeah,
don't have time to recover and you've got, more stuff in the rat race and everything else. So it's harder to do the high risk when you're older. So if you're in your 20s and I failure is the greatest success. One of my friends always said is uh, um, I'm drawing a blank on it.
Fail hard, fail fast. I don't know.
No, it's experience is what you get when you don't get what you want.
There you go.
Is one of my friends, one of the favorite sayings from one of my friends.
Love
And
it.
as a small business owner, you're going to fail. Expect
Mhm.
it. Don't just get up, brush yourself off. Well, that didn't work. Let's try something else.
Keep
Right?
it
You
moving.
have the entrepreneurial spirit is resilience, and you need to be able to bounce back from failures. Nobody succeeds right from the get-go. There are always failures along the path. Learn from them, find something that will actually work, learn from your mistakes, don't repeat them.
Perfect. Great advice, Alex. You're not going to plug yourself. I'm going to plug you Security Training Center. What's the website, Alex?
Security-training-center.com. It's not like people are gonna,
Awesome.
this
Well,
audience is not gonna
hey,
buy my
it doesn't
security
even
training.
matter. We're talking to a living legend here. And then you have Palladium Education as well, too. So we
Yeah,
know
that's
that you write a lot of books and other content as well, too. And if somebody were to get a hold of you or need to get a hold of you, they can reach Alex at security-training-center.com. Or do you have your Palladium Education as well, too? We may not have it on the screen, but do you want to share that one as well?
yeah, Alex at palladiumeducation.com.
Perfect, Alex. Well, we're really so happy to have you on here. I call him a living legend. He's written books, worked for many organizations, Fortune 500, helped many large businesses continue to grow and expand. Um, for Harper Consultants, Cloud 77, really happy to have you on here. Thank you to our regular supporters, those who watch us. If you ever want to learn more about how you can develop, you can grow your own business, expand your own business, scan that QR code, reach out to us. We'll give you a complimentary founders call. We'll help you strategize so you can become an amazing, possibly an amazing person like Alex someday in your business. So again, really happy
And
for everyone.
to
Uh-huh.
keep plugging Adrian, I've used his services.
Oh, thank you, Alex. We
Yeah, I've
appreciate you.
I've I couldn't set up my own Microsoft Exchange server, and I hired Adrian, and his guys took care of it right away for me. It was fantastic.
Appreciate you, Alex. It's always a pleasure working with you. So between Harper Consultants and the business development and Cloud 77, we're here for you. But Alex, it's all about you today, and we're really grateful that you took the time to be with us and to educate us on how we can create content that sells. Have a good
Good
one.
luck, everybody.
Thanks,
It's
everyone.
a fun experience.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. Thank you.